And in terms of the regulatory landscape, what impact do you think that's going to have on things? We see like Coinbase now is being sued by the SEC and threatening to leave the US, but also, or no, Coinbase has received a well notice from the SEC and sued the SEC and is also threatening to leave the US. So, like, there's a lot of stuff going on in terms of regulations. How do you think that's going to impact the future of sexes and the battle against sexes and dexes?
Yeah, it really boils down to what kind of services can a centralized exchange provide and not. Centralized exchanges can experience a lot of scrutiny regarding how they will secure their application and what services they provide, especially on the license. So, as you know, the regulations come into the space and evolve, like the MiCA regulation and stuff like this. Sexes are always in a kind of gray zone or in a risky zone. They always either need to change things or need to be sure that they aren't doing anything illegal. They need to be transparent with the government, have licenses, and all of these things. But I do think that even though the regulations will happen and it will really maybe strangle the space a bit, there will be exchanges will continue to operate. And at the same time, even if the regulatory I mean the regulations, if they even happen in the DeFi space, um, this is the biggest question, because how can you regulate a decentralized autonomous organization which doesn't have a central authority? How would it look like? So this is something which also have people questioning the future, and it's hard to answer it.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think, I mean, like, is now no longer if, it's more so like, now it's here, and when it's like the next round of regulations coming. Because we're already seeing like the crackdowns, right? Uh, so that's interesting. Yeah, I think that with Coinbase's case, like even like the exchanges have realized like even if you're running a clean operation, there's like issues, right? And you mentioned services is a big thing. And a lot of these exchanges want to expand beyond just doing trading and offering other services for people that park their money on their exchanges. And I feel like, that's where a lot of the bigger issues are coming out right now too, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if like it's really been with their like trading operations, like the spot trading, but I think it's, yeah, definitely like the derivatives and
Yeah.
um yeah, the services that they offer.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So, the space is kind of in competition with each other. So this is why, people or developers, founders, they want to create innovative products. But the innovation also comes at a cost. For example, the higher yield you will promise your audience, perhaps you will be the yield, right? And on top of that,
Yeah.
it's not only on the yield and the security, but also like on the regulation, because, oh, you create a new product, but how does it stand regulatory wise? And this is something which limits centralized exchanges, even in staking as an example, right?
Exactly. And with that being said, it's like I'm constantly worried about parking my money, like even now within the US banks, but also on crypto exchanges. So like, how do you kind of balance your risk going forward?
Yeah, I mean, there is no single solution to this. Or maybe there is, but it's not single. It's called diversification. So I would usually spread my funds across exchanges and decentralized wallets, like non-custodial wallets. So the safest one, to be honest, is MetaMask. It's the safest wallet, and the funds on Ethereum would be the safest place to have them. But not to be too detailed, it's just to be diversify across places, across stable coins. So you really don't want all your money in one stable coin. And this is something we learned in 2022 with the Terra Luna crash. Even though it was a really sketchy stable coin, any stable coin is at the end of the day a bit sketchy, both regulatory wise and in terms of if they have backed their assets.
Nice. And yeah, I feel like, MetaMask is a good option. Ledger, especially like, keeping your stuff in cold storage is good for people who are a little bit more advanced. But yeah, that's very interesting. And, aside from that, like, aside from the risk of holding capital, how do you balance out the other risks? So like from leverage or even from derivatives too.
Yeah, so I actually don't do leverage or derivatives because it's risky and because it's a hobby or an activity which requires some sort of expertise. What would I say? It's not something I do. So yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that's totally fine. That I also am not a fan of leverage. I mean, I'm sure like yeah, some people have like kind of talked about their own ways of balancing out the risk there. But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of it either, so I totally understand.
Yeah, because
Um,
altcoins are super volatile anyway. So if I want to do trading, it's usually low cap coins. Also a topic on my Twitter account, like finding the low cap gems, let's say, which you can trust and which have you want to be early in the space. So this is kind of things I do also on my if I have time to do it.